Hi, and welcome to week 2 of the playoffs edition of The Grid. I'm Mike Forman, joined as always by Rey Castillo. We had mostly winners last week in week 1 of the playoffs, so we've got a lot of games again this week. We'll talk about almost quite a few of them anyways, and we might as well start with Thursday. We have one game, and that's Refugio and Thorndale playing at Hero Stadium in San Antonio. This is the third straight year these teams are playing. Refugio's won the last two. Uh, this is the step before the regional round where everybody's been anticipating Refugio and Shiner, but Refugio still has to beat Thorndale, and Shiner on Friday still has to beat Hearn. And those are two good teams, so it's not a given. If they play well, they should win, but they're going to have to play well. So Thursday night, it's kind of interesting why this game is being played on Thursday night. Coach Jason Herring said that Thorndale had a volleyball team in the regional playoffs, and there was a chance that they were going to go to the state volleyball tournament. Well, if they had gone, 2A's state final is Friday. So Coach Herring didn't want to make Thorndale have to play on the same day that its team could possibly have a state volleyball final. So both teams agreed to play on Thursday. And of course, the winner of this game will have the opportunity to go scout Shiner on Friday. And as we move to Friday, let's start with Victoria West. The Warriors had a home game, victorious over La Jolla Palmview. And now things are going to get a little tougher. They play San Antonio Harlan, 11-0, Ray.
Yeah, this will be the Warriors' biggest test, but they got all the momentum coming in, and they're hoping they can get it done just like they have during this 6-game winning streak. And you look at West, just continuing where they left off in the regular season. Tyvon Hardrick is really, putting together, a great season in his senior year, and he definitely doesn't want his season to end. And the Warriors are going to, do what they can to keep it going against a very talented, Harlan team that, like you mentioned, Mike, is undefeated.
Yeah.
And Tyvon also, looking at some history too, Mike, with that rushing record.
Right. And obviously, Harlan is a relatively new school.
Mm-hmm.
I believe what Tyler Tyree said is its roster has very few seniors on it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it can be talented underclassmen. So this will be a real test for the Warriors to see if they can get through. And another test will be for the Sand Crabs. Mm-hmm. Calhoun is playing Boerne Champion. That game will be in Bastrop. I think Coach Whitaker is really concerned about this game, isn't he?
Right, and he knows this is like a lot of teams. This will be the biggest challenge yet. It's already right here in the area round. So, Calhoun will travel to Bastrop to take on Boerne Champion. Boerne Champion is a team that is 10-1 on the season. They've had a lot of success from their quarterback, who is committed to TCU, and these guys can score points just like Calhoun. So the question for Calhoun would be, stopping the pass and coming out on defense, which they've shown they have against Cal Allen. They did it obviously last week against Sherryland, so that'll be big for the Sand Crabs.
Well, of course, the obvious there is what they try to do. They want to control the ball on offense and keep that champion offense off the field. That's that's the way they play the game, is get first downs, run the clock, and of course they want to score.
Right.
And then keep that offense off the field, because obviously Champion has that big playability.
Right.
Yeah, so you want to do that. And while the Sand Crabs and the Sand Crab Nation will be in Boerne, there will be a game at Sand Crab Stadium. We have the El Campo Ricebirds and the Beeville Trojans. The Trojans, of course, this magical season really for them. 10-0 for the first time in school history. They win their first playoff game, just really no trouble at all against Zapata. And now they have El Campo. Interesting matchup. The Ricebirds, they were picked to finish like 6th in the 7-team district. Yeah. And they finished 3rd. They're 9-2 coming in, a big win over Fredericksburg. This will be an interesting matchup because these teams don't play each other very much. So it'll be good for each team. I think it'll be pretty much the same thing. I know Beeville coach Chris Sosa said they want to control the ball, and I have a feeling that's what El Campo wants to do with those three running backs. So this is a very interesting matchup.
Yes, it should be a good one. With Bevo, you know that they're going to come out offensively, and with Seth Gomez there at quarterback, you know what he can do. And then you got El Campo. Encondra's been there before in the playoffs, and just can't take away though what Sosa has done in his first year at Beeville. Just remarkable.
Right. And then the district we always look at in 3A, 14 3A Division 1, they had three of the four teams won. They had Industrial, Edna, and then of course they also had Hallettsville also won. So this week they'll be back at it. Industrial, they go to Karnes City. And so the Cobras coming off a big win. They're going to play Marion, a team that finished, I believe, second in the district they were in. The Cobras, they had a little test. It was close for a while in their first game, but they pulled away. I would think a team like Industrial, they're going to just gain confidence as they go along. Because, it's been a while since they've been. Last year, they lost to Rice Consolidated in the first round. So now they're beyond that first round, and this is new for them, but I think that this is a confident team.
Yes, coming into the playoffs, I see two really close games that, if anything, gave them momentum going into the playoffs. Big wins against Edna to win the district, and then before that close game against Hallettsville, and they got things done last week in the bi-district round, so they're hoping to just continue that.
Right, and then we have Hallettsville and Jourdanton. This could be interesting. You have two very explosive offenses. Jourdanton has put a lot of points up, and so has Hallettsville, of course. I believe you saw Hallettsville last week. Boy, that offense, it just continues. Every week it seems like it just keeps going.
Yeah, Mike, and Jonathan Brooks, junior running back, right in the middle of all of it. He's just hasn't lost a step all season. He's been playing so well, and we saw the 5 touchdowns against Rice Consolidated just to really power that offense.
Right, and Coach Pensick, Tommy Pensick, has done such a good job with this group. They really don't have the numbers, and that's what's amazing is the way they just continue to get better week by week. And then right down the road at Cuero Gobbler Stadium, we're going to have the Edna Cowboys and the George West Longhorns. Another interesting matchup. George West is undefeated on the year. They're coached by Brent Cornegay, who people around here know coach at Yoakum for a number of years. He's done a great job at George West. And, of course, Edna with Coach Robert Draper has got that slot T going. And I think this was what it comes down to with Edna every time is whether or not George West will be able to physically match up with Edna. Edna really just pounds at you, and we'll see if that philosophy pays off against George West.
Right. Yeah, and Edna, Coach Draper's done a good job in his first season doing that, and you're right, Mike. That slot T really going to try to drain some clock and just try to control the ball on offense.
Yeah, and then we had a couple of teams from Division II, 14, 3A, Tidehaven and Ganado, that will be playing. Tidehaven has Poth. Poth has been ranked in the state poll all year. They have a 10-1 record. The only thing here is Tidehaven's traditionally done better in the playoffs, and I think Tidehaven has come from a tougher district than Poth. But Poth is a good, solid team, always is. So that'll be a test for them.
Yes, it's Lucio again. We see it in the last couple of years. Has it been since they really play their best ball in the playoffs, and like you said, you look at the records, but as you mentioned, Mike, Tidehaven, just their competition. Right. I wouldn't be surprised if they come away with a win. Yeah, and then Ganado will play Corpus Christi London. Mm-hmm. This is interesting because I can remember when London was a 2A school, was playing Shiner, and really, Shiner had no trouble with them. But obviously, that program has come a long way, and that'll be Ganado's test. And the thing here is, if somehow Ganado and Tidehaven can win, they would play each other in the next round, and that would be a lot of fun for that rematch. Yeah. And then moving on, I think we talked about Shiner, of course, will be playing Hearn.
and that's 2A Division One. They're going to be over at Sealy, T.J. Mills Stadium in Sealy, Texas. And the Comanches, of course, they breezed through their first round game and against Freer. Hearn will be tougher. This is also a rematch of last year. Hearn put some points on the board against Shiner and actually stayed close for the first half, but Shiner eventually kind of took control. Hearn is a very athletic team, but Hearn, the only thing, Hearn hasn't played defense that well, and that's not a good formula when you play Shiner, because they can put up the points and they can put them up quickly. And another interesting matchup right there from that district, Weimer. They get to play Mason, the defending state champion. Mason is not shown to be as strong as they were last year. That's not to say Mason is not good, because Mason is always good. But be interesting to see how Weimer fares. I know Coach Ryan McIver, when I talked to him the week of the Shiner game, he was talking about Mason. Said like he felt like they hung in there last year and they have a better shot this year. So that'll be a real interesting game. And should mention someone, of course, I'm not going to leave them out, St. Joseph Flyers.
Oh, yeah.
Get their first playoff win in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Big win in that one over San Antonio Holy Cross. Boy, Keon Griffin again. You know, the week after winning Ford Tough, he goes off again. Mm-hmm. He's going to have to go off again this week because they play Second Baptist out of Houston, up in Morton. And, Second Baptist beat them during district, but I believe St. Joseph led that game at halftime.
Yes, St. Joseph led that game at halftime, and you look at the offense in that game, and again it was Keon Griffin, and like you said, Mike, he's gonna have to do it again, and he's very capable of doing that. Right,
and we do have a couple of Saturday games I should mention. Both Sacred Heart and St. Paul will be in action on Saturday. A little bit different in the TAPS playoffs, of course, because they go 4 rounds instead of 6. So their schedule's a little accelerated there. But you can keep up with all the scores this week. We'll have them all for you on Twitter, of course. You can follow us on advosports.com and read all about it in the e-edition. And, of course, in the Grid on Sunday's paper, or as it may be for Refurio, the Grid in Saturday's paper, I guess. But we'll keep you up, and we'll see how we come out of this week, because next week we could, if things work out, we could have a lot of area teams playing each other, which is always kind of fun. So we'll see how things go, and we'll be back again next week for another edition of The Grid.